Hello, party people. My name is Krista Keough, and you're listening to Granted, the podcast that puts the fun in funding. Today we're in the studio with the extraordinary Tara Thorne. Tara is many things right now. She is the lead singer, songwriter, and plays guitar in her rock band Dance Movie. She's the arts editor of The Coast in Halifax, and she's on CBC Radio in Halifax, St. John, and Moncton each week reporting on entertainment happenings. I'm a huge fan of Tara, and I know she's always up for a chat, so let's get to it. Thank you for being here with us today, Tara.
Thanks for asking.
So you and I know each other. We've been friends for a while, and I know that you are really busy and you do a lot of things. So you're the arts editor at The Coast.
Yep.
You're on CBC Radio every week, and you are a singer and songwriter. You play in a band called Dance Movie.
Correct.
But what I didn't know about you until recently is that you did a podcast.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, maybe this is a dumb thing to say on a podcast, but I do not listen to podcasts.
Okay.
It's like not part of my identity or anything, but people are always like, did you hear this podcast? I'm like, the answer's always going to be no, I did not. But Jacob Boone, who was my coworker at The Coast, and I say was because he has moved to Yellowknife. He didn't die. For the anniversary year of The Coast, it turned 25 last year, so we were doing a bunch of things. And one of the things he wanted to do was this podcast. It was 25 for 25, which is we stole from 30 for 30, the ESPN series. Yeah. It's the only name we ever came up with, and we never tried to do anything different.
Right.
So it was a year per episode, starting in 1993. And Jacob did all, I was like, we didn't get paid any extra. It was like his passion project. So I was like, I'll come in and co-host. I'll book who you want me to book. You do everything else. So he produced it. He did all the research. He would suggest guests, and I would say yes or no. And sometimes I had to get them. Like the first person I got was Jay Ferguson from Sloan. I was like, you're welcome.
Oh,
because it was during our first recording was during the ECMAs, and they were in town.
Oh, that's
and
exciting.
Sloan was very big in the early 90s, especially. So yeah, it was funny because he's a bit younger than me. But we would do this sort of like, here's what was going on in the city that year. And in the 90s, like I didn't move here till 97. So, we didn't have a lot of memories of things that were going on. But then as the episodes got later in time, we were both here and then we started working together. So the episodes started getting really long because we had so many memories of the time. Right. But, we really tried to make it diverse in terms of guests and topics and all that stuff. And but you can see if you go through the SoundCloud, you'll see the episodes getting longer and longer. We used to try to keep them to a tight 45 because CKDU was airing them.
Oh, fun.
And then we didn't give a fuck at the end. We were just like, it was very self-indulgent going off. So it's like 30 hours maybe of Halifax history viewed through, how the Coast covered it over 25 years. So
that's incredible.
It's pretty cool. If you're into Halifax history, there's lots there for you for sure.
Yeah, I've listened to a few episodes and I do find it fascinating. And okay, so one of the episodes I was listening to, you were having a conversation with Jacob and Stephanie Domet.
Right.
And it was the 2002 episode, and you were talking about ethics in journalism and jobs that you've had. And I thought it was so interesting to me. Like, I was listening to the podcast in my ears, but I turned my head. I was so surprised. You had said that you've never quit a job, but that you've had to stand up for yourself. And then you said, which I don't do very well.
Yeah.
And I was shocked by that because to me, you're someone who's so confident and you're not afraid to say how you feel. And you just are also, though, at the same time, willing to not always be right. Like you're just a really great voice on so many topics. And so how do you feel? Like I reflected on this a little bit for you.
Okay.
I thought
I don't have a therapist, so I could use it.
Well, I thought maybe it's just that it's easier to stand up for other people and other things that you're passionate about than yourself. Is there truth?
Yeah, I think so. And I'm not confident at all. So it's shocking to me that you think that.
What?
Yeah, I cry every day.
What?
Every day.
So
I'll probably cry tonight.
So where does that come from in you?
I really don't know. I think the older I get, the angrier I am. So and the world has gotten angrier. Like the things that I've always yelled about. Not that I'm a trailblazer of any kind, but when I was on the Pop Explosion board, I was pushing women and pushing and pushing and pushing. And the pushback I was getting was like, this is not a problem. Like, what are you talking about? And I have since gotten apologies from people, now that we talk about those sort of things now. Mm-hmm. History has proven me right. But in terms of standing up for myself, I think, I'm just not, because I'm not confident and because I'm not a good negotiator, because women generally aren't good negotiators. Although I just read an amazing Judge Judy profile, and her negotiation tactic is every 3 years she meets with the president of the network, and she has written a number in a sealed envelope, and she slides it over. And she's like, that's what I want. And 1 year, a guy tried to slide an envelope back, and she said, this is not a negotiation.
Really?
And she's worth $400 million. We should all try to be Judge Judy.
Wow, that's inspiring. Yeah, no, for
anyway,
real,
but
though.
yes, in terms of standing up for other people, and especially in recent years where, people are being held accountable now. So I feel like my voice, for better or for worse, has grown over, 20 years as a journalist. And it's like, I don't feel powerful, but if I can offer something, like if my voice matters to people, then I'm going to use it.
That's amazing.
And I also used to worry about being blacklisted or my band won't be asked to play that show. Well, we weren't fucking asked anyway. So I might as well say what I want.
Right.
Who cares?
Yeah. Well, that's it. At some point, I guess you got to stop caring about what other people think. And that's something that's so easy to say and people throw it around. But really, it is a very long tunnel once you start going down there, because it's like, okay, well, who are we talking about? Everybody that I know, everybody who possibly knows me, who I don't even know. I mean, you can really be consumed. So, yeah. And
especially, in a framework like what we're talking about, arts funding, it's like, we know the program officers. We know everyone involved. So you do kind of go, well, how does that affect me behind the scenes? What I say out loud, you can't ever know, really.
Yeah.
And I used to be afraid of it, but now I don't give a fuck. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. It serves you really well.
Not give me more shows? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then also at the same time, I find any time that I've spoken out to, because I've spoken out about a few things,
right?
But you find your people. Mm-hmm. This is what is surprising. And you see maybe people who you thought felt the same way that you did, maybe don't, but you do find other people you attract. It's that law of attraction thing. They start seeing what you're saying. Oh, I believe the same thing too. What are you into? I'm into that too.
You think you're alone, but you aren't.
Yes.
And you make it safe for other people.
That's really nice. I do think you are a trailblazer.
Well,
I'm going to say that.
Thank you.
So I want to know more about Dance Movie, your band. Yeah, because
it's not really a good time to ask, but go on.
Okay. Well, because you've done a lot.
Yes.
You play with 3 other people in a band, and you've done 3 EPs and 2 records, and you've released one fairly recently.
2017 now.
Oh,
2 years ago. I know. Where does time go?
I thought for sure it was 2018.
And we recorded it in 2014, by the way. Yeah.
So, okay. So, as an artist, have you applied for funding? How has that played a role in your...
Yes, I have applied for funding. I made a list. I looked at all my old grants.
Oh.
So the first band I was ever in was with Matt Charlton called Bloodsport. Oh. So I quit my job in 2007, and I just had lots of free time. And he's like, hey, do you want to play bass in a band? I'm like, I don't play the bass. He's like, yeah, I know.
Really?
Okay. So then I joined that band, and it was me and 3 boys, and Matt and I sort of ended up splitting the admin duties. So that's the first grant I ever wrote was for Bloodsport, emerging, whatever the hell, to get money for our first EP, which we got. We asked for $1,400, and we got it.
Nice.
In 2008.
Okay.
So Dance Movie, I would say Dance Movie has like a 50% success rate, 0% on Factor.
Ugh.
We can complain about Factor in a minute. But yes, $1,000 I asked for our first EP, which we got, and then $2,000 for our full length in 2010, which we got. And then I got rejected for an EDP in 2014, which we'll tell you more. That's a funny story. And then actually asked for $4,000 for Pierce, which was the last record we made. Yeah. Asked for $4,000, got $2,000. It cost over $20,000. So thanks for the little bit of money.
Thank you, cha-ching. I'll make sure to put your logo on everything I have.
Yep. 1/10 of the budget. Nova Scotia government. There you go.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on that? What's been your experience like?
I find grant writing's a really interesting thing because it's not fun. Nobody likes doing it. And the weird thing about it is you're appealing to the government. These are not artistic people. The juries are, but generally, so you need to work in language that you're not used to working in. Every grant I've ever read that's successful is boring as shit, repetitive, like often terribly written. Okay. And I'm like, this thing got funding? Like, I don't know. Well, my funny story is, so in 2014, we got into North by Northeast. And I was like, okay. I was like,
it's in Toronto. Okay.
Yeah. It used to be good. It's not good anymore. I think they literally canceled it last year.
I think they did too.
But it's back this year. Okay. Or it just happened. And so it was for 2 showcases in Toronto. And Rebecca's like, I could use some money. So I wrote a grant, but I was like mad that I had to do it. And it was jaunty. Okay. And I knew the program officer at the time. And she came up to me in a bar. Oh. And she's like, I want to tell you you're not getting funding, and I want you to know why. And I was like, okay. And she's like, it read like you were telling me to go fuck myself. Wow. And I said, I thought you would want something fun to read for once. And she said, this is a good note. Against everything else, it looked unprofessional.
Really?
Yeah.
But what if your profession is a creative writer?
Right? They don't give a shit. So it's funny because I was just at a board meeting for a theater company, and one of the feedback notes that he got on his last rejected grant, I think from the city, was needs more writing practice, and apparently that's come up a lot in his grants. And I read all the grants as preparing for the meeting. I read all his support material. I thought they read really nicely. It was interesting. It just demonstrated that the company does a lot, which is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to tell them the information and like, here's how I'm successful on an international level. Rejected. And it's like, really? Is that what we're trying to do? And then another guy who was there, who is a technical writer, said you have to appeal to them. You have to basically repeat the same information over and over. It's like, I am doing this. It accomplishes this goal. I am doing this second thing. It accomplishes the same goal. So there's a real disconnect from art and admin side. And I mean, I know you've written a ton of grants in your life. You know this. But unfortunately, it falls generally on people who don't have that technical side. Yes.
Well, that is why I think I have this kind of job that I do as a grant writer, because you're exactly right. They're very difficult to write. It's hard for people to communicate what they have in their head down on paper and make it sound professional and be able to compete with other people who have managers and record labels who are writing these things all the time. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you, the language, like a lot of time what's in the guidelines, they want you to repeat sort of and
you're just copying and pasting.
Yeah, you're kind of like the objectives of this program are A, B, and C. And then so in your grant, you want to make sure you're saying that you're also doing A, B, and C and how it fits in. And it kind of brings up this point I wanted to get your thoughts on. Like, here's one of the things I find frustrating in that is that Halifax is arguably the largest city with the largest music scene, if we're talking about, say, just music in the Maritimes, right, in Atlantic Canada. Sure. And even that said, we still have a couple of artist managers, a couple of publicists, even fewer booking agents, and fewer labels. And yet the funding seems to favor people who have these awesome teams.
Yeah.
And so how it sort of forces people, I think, to start hiring in Toronto or in other places, like Toronto being the biggest one.
Which has to be not what we're supposed to be doing.
Well, that's what I think. Like, why is it still, because you and I have been in this game, like you said, 2007, and I've said it a few times on this podcast now, but that was the same time. I think a lot of people started coming up at that time. And it hasn't really changed. Like our industry side hasn't grown nearly as much as the talent side at all.
Correct. Yeah.
Like we still
It's
have
the same people. Yeah.
Sherry, Louie, Ian, Kyle. You know, it's just why is that?
I really don't know. I think a lot of people move.
Are we doing a disservice to the talent we have here? Like at Dance Movie, did you have a hard time building your team? Do you still?
I don't have a team.
Okay. So
are you kidding? Right. Trevor is in my band and on my team. He is my publicist, I guess.
Trevor Murphy,
yeah.
Right.
Although I could do that myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it doesn't look good that I can do it myself. It doesn't look good to them. It's like, I'm a fucking professional writer.
Right.
I don't, like, there's two of us anyway. I really don't know what the problem is. I also think, this might be controversial, but I think too many people live their artistic life based on whether they're going to get grant money or not, and that's the wrong way to do it. Like, I know people who don't do projects because they don't get the money. For me, it was like, I just told you my last record cost $20,000. Do you think getting that $2,000 mattered? Like, it wouldn't have stopped it.
Right.
I think it's insane. I think you should plan your project, budget it out, and get the money yourself. I worked 5 jobs.
Wow.
To raise that money. I stopped drinking. I didn't do anything fun. Like, I did not spend any leisure dollars to make sure I had that money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I was paying an American producer, so I needed more than it actually looked.
Oh, Lord.
So I think I think the government side, like, it's nice that we have granting systems, and America doesn't have that because they have label systems, or, you know, if you're in the film business, studio systems. So they have corporations that make money off Madonna and then give a little bit to you. We don't have that here. Maybe we should reconsider that. I just really think people need to be able to take care of themselves, and any funding should be gravy. I really do think that.
Yeah, because we do see that there are some artists that are obviously more funded than others.
And it has nothing to do with whether they're good or not.
Well, that's kind of something I wanted to mention too, because
this is where we get in trouble.
Well, not to say like that, because there's so much music, but some of it isn't good. But also the funding programs we have in the province primarily for music, and I don't know what it would be like for film or maybe theater, but music would be the most easy one to choose to be able to include playing your music in the jury, right? But like the provincial programs and funding we have, they don't listen to the music at all. You don't even submit
what
it.
What the fuck is that about?
Well, I guess.
I mean, I know what it's about.
I know too,
but it's not cool.
I agree.
Bad.
I think we're missing out on
the
a lot of
part.
Yeah, the art part. The part where you make the art and then the business kind of is built around it. And I get that the business part is important, but does the focus need to be for everybody the return on investment, or that return being of monetary value always every time?
Right, because Dance Movie could go on a 30-city tour if you want me to, and I will make nothing, but it will look good somehow.
Right.
Like it will cost us thousands to go do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to make it back.
Yeah.
So it's like, the measurements are interesting. And the social media component is weird because you can buy followers.
What do you mean?
You can go pay a website to give you fake followers and boost your numbers. On Instagram, I see it all the time, and I can tell when people have bought them.
Okay.
Like, I've never fucking heard of you, and you have 10,000 followers. No, you don't. You bought them. Actually, Jacob Boone gifted me. One of my New Year's resolutions was to get more followers than him on Twitter, because I think it's ridiculous that he has more than me. And he bought me 1,500 fake followers for Christmas.
What? Are these real people, or they're fake accounts?
Yeah, they're bots.
And they're just people. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of blowing my mind. So there are tricks to the system, so it does make you.
But why should you be playing tricks? Why do you have to trick anything?
Exactly. It makes you question, okay, so what is the value of the system? The other thing is, too, that we had Sara Jamer on here, and there are other people we know in Toronto doing artist management services companies. I am one of them. And then sometimes I manage artists, sometimes I don't. But for the most part, that's what I've been doing. And I thought about it since, like, you have to be an artist manager in order to qualify for a lot of funding programs, like with Factor and things. Right. You don't fit into this box. So what if whatever? What if every client or every person that you worked with, you're like, okay, can we sign an agreement that you will give me 0.00001% of your revenue? Like, you could make it so ridiculous, and then also on top of that, pay me $400 a month or something. Like, you'd still, is it?
Who on the earth wants to be an artist manager?
Well,
like, really?
We just don't have enough of them for them to count so much, and I know that for Factor, the juried sound recording, you do listen to the music and it is weighed.
Yes.
But when it gets so competitive that, I've worked with artists who came so close. They were like, they got an 89% and it was only the 90s and above. So then in that case, your team does matter. Those 15 points of what your team is worth, that could make the difference.
Yeah.
What do we do?
I really don't know. I think, the system is sort of geared at people at higher levels, but it's like, who took a chance? They were started at the bottom too. I'm not going to sit here and name names because it's not worth it, but it's like, I know people who played at the Khyber and started on the open mic circuit and whatever and hustled their ass, and now they're like in the top echelon of Canadian music, but someone had to take a chance on them at some point. Mm-hmm. And I don't, maybe people can't do that anymore because we've all got 6 jobs, and it's like, who also wants to do 6 jobs and manage their friend for free on the off chance they might break through in 5 years?
Yeah.
Life is too short.
It takes a long time, too.
Yeah, and people think overnight success is a thing. I've been using Lizzo as an example. Of course, she's not Canadian, but I saw Lizzo open for Slater-Kinney, which, like, for a dance movie would be the best we could do, opening for Slater-Kinney at the House of Blues in Boston. Right. Lizzo did that in 2015. And she just blew up this year.
Yeah.
So, and that's someone insanely talented. There's no Lizzo in Halifax. No offense, Halifax. There just isn't. There's a DJ Lizzo. She should change her name. Not the same thing.
Damn, that would suck if you were a DJ Lizzo because then you're like, damn.
Yeah, I actually saw her name on the Evolve poster last year, and it was like way, way down. And I was like, is this true? And then someone was like, no, that's a Halifax person. So, it takes a long time. So you need to find somebody who's willing to be in it with you. And I think there also used to be more venues. There used to be more of a fan base here. Like, people aren't interested in going to see new bands anymore. Mm-hmm. So it's just harder to cut, like, people are less interested. So it's just harder to come up. Mm-hmm. Unless you're like a SoundCloud rapper, which that seems to be overnight success.
Well, there's that. And, but the Coast does a great job of...
We try. Some people would disagree with you.
I think it is, because I see a lot of diversity, and I see a lot of artists who I don't see in my day-to-day music business life.
Yeah.
And I like that. And that's the kind of thing that makes me think that we're missing out on a huge pool of talent. And, like, why are they not being engaged in funding, or is that even...
I think they're not playing the game. Like, that's the thing. And if you look at some of the most successful people from here recently, they didn't play the game. Always.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Always is Celtic Mafia and Hadaway in the back.
Well, I know an interesting story about that, actually. I know of a woman who was at a party once, and the lead singer of Always is... Molly
Rankin.
And she was, but she was having a conversation with a rep from Universal. Mm-hmm. And when Molly turned away from the conversation, I guess the rep said something like, oh, they're never going to get anywhere because she just isn't a people person.
Right.
About Molly.
And she's not a dynamic performer. Like, she's very still.
Yes.
Like, they're not an exciting live band, but they're very good.
Yeah, they are very good.
Yeah.
And I think so. And also, who I met Cam Smith's mother over the weekend randomly. And then I started looking into him, and he's another person who, his real name's Jacob.
Jacob, yeah. His life is very insane. He came in to talk to my class at NSCC, and he had this amazing, like, PowerPoint presentation prepared. And I was like, question, not one point did you say local. I didn't hear the word local or Dartmouth come out of your mouth. He's like, you can't think that. Your favorite bands are from all over the world. So you have to think about that. And that's why he's gone far, I think. I also think of Ryan Hemsworth, who we love to claim did not do music here, moved to Ottawa and blew up from there, thank you. Nap Eyes, like all these people that are on Mint Records, like none of them played the game. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just noting it.
Well, that's what I'm
And the
I'm
younger bands
too.
look up to those types of bands.
Yes.
So they're kind of like, why would I go to Music Week?
Right.
Why would I go to the ECMAs? Why would I suck whoever's dick? Like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I don't blame them.
What are they doing instead?
I really don't know. I guess they're friends with Nap Eyes, and then they take them on tour. I don't know.
And they post about them on their Instagram or something.
I
And they
mean,
blow up.
there's still labels in Montreal signing like bands of 5 pasty white men. I'm not really sure why, but like that's the least interesting thing to me now. Like as an editor in 2019, if I see a picture of your band and it's 4 white men and you play guitars, like listen, I love those bands, but I don't care about you.
We just need to hear more from more people.
Yeah, from other types of people.
And you are a huge advocate for women on stages and in the arts, I would say.
Yeah.
And diversity. What drives you? I mean, just besides being a woman, is it a particular experience? Is it just a disparity that you see?
I don't know. Yeah, I've sort of always been a feminist, sort of against all odds. I grew up in rural Nova Scotia with not conservative parents, but they weren't progressive by any means. And I would say my sisters are not fervent feminists either. I don't know. I think I caught on to like Alanis and Tori in like 1996. Alanis Morissette and Tori Amos, and that really informed a lot of my ideas and of what women could do and what women could be. And I don't know. And as I said at the beginning, like I'm just angrier. And women have pushed a long time to be heard, and it's finally happening. Yeah. So that's exciting. It's like you see, like I've seen Sharon Van Etten in the past year, and Mitski, and I just went to see Jenny Lewis. This is her sweatshirt that I'm wearing. You can't see it. I just went to see Jenny Lewis in Portland, and Slater Kinney's got a New Yorker coming out. Like Julian Baker, all these really awesome women musicians, like they're taking over. Where you'll hear a lot like, oh, the guitar is dead. It's like, no, you're just looking to the wrong people playing guitar. Like all these women play guitar and they're awesome, and they're leading the way, and it's very exciting.
As far as being here in Nova Scotia, what do you think we could do better in that way?
Honestly, I don't know I wouldn't want anyone to say this about me, but we really need a shake-up at the top levels. Yeah. It's been the same people since I started my job when I was 20 years old. It's the same people at the top. And it's not a commentary on whether they're doing a good or a bad job, but we just need new blood and new voices and new perspectives. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to go anywhere. Why would they? They're the kings. And one queen, Sherry. It's just like, why?
I see. Okay.
They're not making space. They are not helping with the current situations that are going on in terms of like believing women. We know there's been this Mike Smith thing, and Louis made reprehensible comments in Vice that were just threatening to sue the reporter instead of saying, we believe women. Mike doesn't agree that this was what happened or whatever. And they have great so working at Sonic. And I would, if my boss had said that shit in a newspaper, I would feel really bad about going to work there the next day. It's a different generation, and they kind of go, what's the big deal? Like, what are you talking? Like, we just want what's cool. And it's really frustrating.
You've made a lot of good points, and I do agree with you. And I think it's fair to say now that we've been in this business for as long as we have, and we do see it, that there are only so many people who are at the top. And also fair to say they're at the point in their career, the Louis, the Ians, the Sherrys, they're looking at retiring in the next 10 to 20 years.
Right.
You look at the numbers. So who do you see being the next up and coming people? Who do you see?
Like industry people?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. I mean, he's a straight white man, but Nigel Jenkins is doing a great job. Yeah. He's really got cool bands. He's got Hillsburn. Hillsburn, side note, which I would consider a successful band in 2019, and I ran into Rosanna the other day. She said, I have 4 jobs right now because we're between records. So that's the music business for you. Yeah. But, he's putting out Butts' record. He's putting out Kim Harris's record. I think he knows what's up. And he's also personable. Like, he's a guy I want to talk to. Like, in a lot of music industry situations, you feel smarmed. You know what I mean? Like, you're like, this isn't a real conversation that we're having. Like, you just want me to write about whatever.
Oh,
and I can always tell those people. Yeah.
You would get that, okay.
I would, yeah. So, like, Nigel's just, like, he seems like he knows what's up. I'm really excited by what Laura and the Side Door people are doing. Now, that's not on the... I mean, it's a little bit artist. It's not really... It's artist-driven. It's not necessarily someone who's going to be running a record label in 5 years. But who knows? Yeah. She could do anything.
Yeah, and they started the Syrup Factory as well.
Yes, but can we please... Actually, this brings up a point that I want to complain about, which is mentorship grants through Music Nova Scotia. So mentorship grants are a lot more than artist grants. Now, to be fair, I have not applied for any grants in 5 years. 2014 was the last one. But as far as I know, mentorship grants are always higher. And I can think of 3 people off the top of my head that I will not name that got $12,000. We're never from here to start. Like, we're not Nova Scotia residents. You only have to live here for 6 months or some garbage to qualify.
A year, yeah.
Is it a year?
I believe it is.
A year is a bit more legit, but still not very much.
Yeah.
To get $12,000 to go to Toronto or LA or whatever to mentor with someone, and then they don't come back. It's like, so you effectively paid somebody's moving costs for them to jerk off on the government's money and then give those returns to that, economy. And that's not what they're for. And I can think of actually 2 of the 3 people were barely qualified to be getting that kind of money to start. Like, if someone wants to go to Toronto and do an internship, fine, give them a couple $1,000s to encourage that, but don't pay for their life.
Well, it kind of speaks to what we were saying, too, about the lack of infrastructure here. Yeah. Because if everybody's going outside of the region to, learn, and like you're saying, and I've definitely written mentorship grants before, and you did mention the fact that they're not for artists. So it's really strange because they used to be. Like, Ria May did a mentorship with Rose Cousins.
Right, I remember that.
And it was because Rose was a managed artist at the time. Yeah. And so the idea was like, okay, well, Ria's doing a record, and so wouldn't it be great if she learned from Rose how to do a record? And that was like super great. It's encouraging, artists to sort of manage their business part by also learning from another artist. But they don't fund artists anymore in the mentorship anymore. So you can only...
Because they don't want you to be self-anything. They want you to have a team. They want you to build a team to take money from you.
Well, build a team with the invisible people, like who are not here.
Who aren't here.
That is the frustrating thing, too. So, I don't know, maybe we need more money for the emerging people. It doesn't need to be so much, or also just... Yeah.
I mean, I do think we need to grow the industry. I think they do need to be investing in the industry, but it's not to send people away. It's like, if you go to Toronto, listen, I would rather learn with like a big person in a big market and then bring that home. That's what Laura did. Yeah. She went to LA and brought it back, and look at her now. But it's like, you should have to give half back if you don't come home. Like, really?
I love that. Yeah.
Or it's maybe, like those retention grants with student loans. It's like, you have to come back to actually get the back half of the money or something like that.
Or just invest in mentors who are here, mentoring other people who are here.
Yes, we have a ton of people here. I think I do get the appeal of like wanting to go to LA and like work with whoever.
Yeah, and depending on what you want to do, like if you want to be doing music supervising, or if you want to work in a specific genre of music like hip hop or rap. Yeah, if you're not mentoring with Classified, you have to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. Or if you've already done that, that's the ceiling.
Yeah, or like
pretty much.
These people are busy. Maybe they don't. It's like what, $4,000 for them, and they are stuck with you for 4 months. Like maybe they don't want to do that.
Well, and I don't even think the mentor gets
the money.
No.
Interesting.
They don't. They can ask for an honorarium, or you can offer to say you're going to give them something, but there's no maximum, minimum, or you don't have to. The idea is, I guess, they would get something out of that person volunteering their time.
That's sort of reverse internship. That's fun.
It is.
Yeah.
It is very much.
We need to kill internships. We all know that.
In those ways, yeah.
In life.
And because sometimes... I guess it could lead to, growing your business. Like Stephanie Purcell, she's coming in. She's one example I think of right away. And I think Kimberly Sinclair in their business brought in someone on a mentorship, and then they stayed with them. But that I don't think is the norm.
No, it's not.
At all. And so, yeah. I think we've covered a lot of what I wanted to cover, to be honest. Like, I didn't... purposefully look down at this list of questions, but I do kind of think
you're very well prepared. I've never brought a laminated list of questions to anything.
Thanks for pointing that out.
It's very professional.
This is what I used to do with teaching.
Oh, wow.
I think, and that kind of brought me back because that's another thing that you did that I didn't mention. You were teaching.
You helped me a lot because
Really?
Yeah, you helped me a lot.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I liked that.
You gave me a lot of resources.
Oh, that's
It was sort
nice.
of a self-directed thing. It was sort of like, we hired you. Bye. I'm like, excuse me? How do I teach?
Well, isn't that crazy? Not that we're going to go on and on about that, but it did blow my mind the first day I was teaching too, because I took over. Speaking of Matt Charlton, who you mentioned before, I took over for his class,
Which is what I ended up doing eventually.
okay,
Yeah.
and then you meet with the people and they tell you, okay, these are the outcomes you need to do. There's 4 things you have to teach them how to use spreadsheets or something, and something else, and that you do just genuinely show up to the classroom and stand there in front of the students, and then
It was
off
terrifying.
you go.
It was terrifying. I was so scared.
I was so scared too. I would sweat a lot before that. But
It was like performing for 4 hours a week.
yeah, it is. It is. And you get really I would feel
Except
really
the audience
excited.
cries sometimes.
Yeah, except they hate you.
Yeah.
Except you
And
know
they
going in.
I used to have anxiety dreams every night that they were shit-talking me on Facebook.
Oh,
They probably were. But I never saw any evidence of it. But they had I was like, they have a secret Facebook group where they talk about me. And then I have a professor friend. She's like, they don't give a shit about you. Don't worry about it.
yeah.
Like, they don't think about you.
Yeah, I did see them sometimes, like when we were afterwards. I see the students now, and that's kind of fun. But I do remember seeing them like out and about, and it would be that awkward, like, oh, weird, there's our teacher kind of thing. You're like,
I will say though that program has that scene of bands is very strong and thriving, and they all support each other in a way that people of my generation do not.
Well, maybe that's it. I guess we could say that kind of sums it up nicely when we're talking about who's up and coming, because it is true. I do see a lot of those NSCC students really bonding. And
Yeah, they're very excited to be in bands together. And you know, I see like the Drug Rugs,
Yeah.
you know, like Marcus and Emma and Laura. Marcus is like a metal guy. I'm like, what is he doing in the Drug Rugs? But it works great.
Yeah, and Isra
Isra,
is doing
yes.
awesome things.
Yeah. And Seth Valier, you know, like they're all...
Roxy was in there.
Yes. Natalie Lynn.
Nicole Ariana, Laura Roy, Natalie Lynn, yes. So there is a great group there. I mean, I guess...
It's sort of unfortunate that that's where they have to find each other.
Yeah.
You know, because not everyone is interested in going to school or can afford it.
Yeah, or the
whatever.
time.
Like wherever you can make community, it's sort of interesting that it's that program, which is probably making more bands than it's making jobs. You know what I mean?
I do. Yeah. Yeah, because the Da Vinci program is closed now for audio recording engineering jobs. And also at NSCC, it's been closed for a couple years now,
I think they're opening back up this fall. Ooh. There was a posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Get back in the studio, folks. Well, thank you so much for being here and talking to us about all of this
All
stuff.
my complaints.
Yeah.
Thanks,
No, it was
Krista.
really good. I think it's great to hear from you because you've just got a really interesting perspective from so many views.
Yeah.
And, you know, to talk about funding and the opportunities that you've had and what you've seen, like through that lens of being the arts editor, of being in a band, of even working at CBC, being a teacher, all that.
And this made me realize I never filed my final report for that 2014 grant.
Well, stick it
So
to
I guess
them.
Mickey's going to hear this and come for me.
Really?
I'm sorry, Mickey. I'll do it if you need it.
Yeah. Well, you'll get a check then, right?
What?
You,
No, I got the check.
Oh, you got the
Yeah.
check?
Yeah.
They gave you the check before you finished the...
Maybe they didn't. No,
They
they
probably-
did. They did.
Say they held on to it until you report on it.
No, I think things were different then. There was no like sheet to fill. You just were like,
Wait, you're talking 2014?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you never know.
Don't worry, I got the money. I got my side of the deal.
Okay, that's good.
They
He
did
might
not
come
get theirs.
for you.
Also, records sold 52? I don't know. They're all
It's
in
a
my
success.
closet. You can come count them, Mickey.
You win. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Krista.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast wherever you like to listen to podcasts so you never miss a new episode of Granted. Produced by Krista Keough and John Mullane at John's Studio in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Follow us on social media. We are at Granted Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and you can follow us on Twitter at Granted_podcast.